All right.
Okay. Okay, this is my mentor. His name is Toby TigerHeart. So I got a couple questions for you, if you wouldn't mind answering them.
Okay.
Alright, so how long have you been a trainer for? Like, how long has it been since you've been training kids?
How long? So I've been a teacher of martial arts probably since I was 20. The cool thing is I started maybe a year and a half into just starting to do Muay Thai. I ended up teaching. It's kind of like the way it goes. A lot of martial arts schools, about a year in, you have pretty much the basics down. A year and a half or 2 years in, if you show a lot of promise, most martial arts instructors and most martial arts gym owners will have you teaching the kids class. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So in the kids class is the way they generate a lot of income. So
yeah,
if they see a promising fighter or something like that, their incentive for that gym owner to train them is, hey, why don't you teach the kids class or teach a
yeah,
class here? And a lot of times they'll still charge you tuition and still expect you to teach a class just because they're
yeah,
you're their upcoming fighter. So cool.
yeah. Alright, so my second question is, who inspired you to become a trainer? Like, did you have like your own mentor that trained you into like what you do now?
As far as being a teacher, I would say that one of the things maybe inspired me is my grandfather. My grandfather, for some reason, only called me professor. Never called me by my name, never anything else, all growing up. So it kind of instilled that in me, maybe as a self-fulfilling prophecy for me to kind of keep in that mindset and think that I was going to be a teacher. But as far as being inspired by a great teacher, there's so many good teachers in the game as far as trainers and teachers. There's lots of good
Yeah,
teachers out there who teach the martial arts, but then there's also the next upper echelon is those teachers who also train fighters, take fighters to combat. So it's that next level
yeah,
of fight or fight. So one of the guys that the guy named Sleeper, his name is Walter Sleeper. That's his nickname. He's a trainer and teacher. He owns Sit Y'all Tongue LA out in Los Angeles. He's just a bad dude. This guy, we talk about somebody who's inspiring and a mentor. We have a cool story. Is I met Walter right at that point in my career when I was like, dude, I want to keep doing this. Do I not want to keep doing this? I showed up to a gym called, uh, what was it called? The Muay Thai USA. In
hmm,
I think it was in North Hollywood, California. I showed up kind of in that point where I'm like, I think I'm done with this. My gym kind of broke up down. I was training in downtown LA towards that gym with Walter. I met Walter there. That first day I met Walter, it was just kind of amazing. We kind of meshed, and he was just coincidentally he was opening his own gym in Pasadena, California, that Monday. And I remember this being a Thursday. All I remember is going in there and training with Walter, and Walter was kind of like that myth, Sight Sleeper, their sleeper.
yeah,
Just kind of had a reputation for being a bad dude. Was a gym owner, had a great reputation for being a badass fighter, but he's one of those guys in the community you just respect. You have no choice but to respect him, not only for his fighting ability, but also for his ability to rally his troops. He had a great team around him. So he asked me, hey, you want to come to my new gym, open up a new gym. So I was at that point there where I was 24 years old. I had a lot of amateur fights, but no big pro fights. So he really inspired me to become a trainer because I could see what he did. He kind of invited me in and said, hey, took me under his wing, let me be a part of his school. One of my first major knockouts was a head kick knockout under him, under his leadership. And that was right early in my career. And that was kind of like one of those pivotal moments in my
yeah,
career. I think if I would have lost that fight, I don't think we'd be talking now.
yeah,
But that fight I won. So as far as inspiring to become a teacher and really train and teach fighters and transfer the knowledge that I've known, Walter's probably one of my biggest inspirations to really become a gym owner and do that.
He's still in LA still.
So he still owns Sit Yaw Tong LA in Los Angeles. He still does that. Still does the same thing that trainer grind. He's still got a fight team. He still holds amateur fights at his location. So he's still doing the same things, living the same dream.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's amazing actually. So how does your like particular like boxing like how do you train kids for that? Like how does that training work? Like do you?
So one of the things about training kids and kind of the mentality that we have towards the kids is that we want them to get their wrestling and their boxing. As far as self-defense goes, teaching them Muay Thai, teaching them the elbows, teaching the knees, teaching them a lot of the arm breaks and jiu-jitsu and stuff. Although it's part of the art, it's not practical for a self-defense situation for a kid. So when we're trying to really work their brain and get it in the networking in there, we want to have them the ability to control the distance. So that's why we teach boxing. The ability to control the grappling if we need to get in a grappling situation. Does that make sense? So as far as teaching kids boxing, it's the fundamentals. It's the 101. Yeah. I always tell everyone, beware the instructor that gets bored teaching the basics. And that's what happens a lot of instructors who have been doing it a long time. They themselves get bored teaching the basics. So they start teaching fancy stuff and 15-point combos. And at the end of the day, it's about the jab, jab, jab. It's about controlling the distance, about movement. So with the kids, we teach them a lot different. It's a lot about footwork. It's a lot about being in the right place at the right time. It's a lot about breath work. It's a lot about really teaching them how to learn and how to get with the system of boxing training. So that's how it's different with the kids than it is with the adults. When you're trying to teach kids, it's about getting that foundation and those 101s and just drilling them and drilling them and drilling them. Yeah.
That's really cool. So my next question is, do you recommend any sort of like diet for your fighters? Like, do you make them go on a special diet?
It just depends. A lot of body types are different. A lot of people come into it with a very specific diet, but diet is probably one of the most important things when it comes to being a professional fighter, because that's your fuel source. And a lot of people put a lot of emphasis into the sparring and the hard work, and that's a big part of it, but a lot of it's that recovery, that rest and recovery, and the nutrition is part of that rest and recovery, because when we're breaking these muscles down and we're doing this to probably the highest extreme, the training, it's important that nutrition is there. So we recommend to suggest a very high protein diet, minimal carbs, and even things like, people always ask me, is coffee good? Is coffee bad? Is this good? So there's a lot of things that, one, you have to listen to your body. But, coffee has a lot of good alkalines in it, a lot of good things that are good for the body, anything in moderation. But when you have a good fight diet, it's a high protein diet, high vegetable, high fruit diet. Because one of the most important things when we're training for a fight is, look, 24 hours before we get in that ring, we have to weigh a specific weight.
Yeah.
For me, it was 155 pounds exactly. So that Monday of that fight, I usually woke up about 170. So over that 4 to 5 days, I got down to 165 just by naturally cutting out water. And then the day of, I wake up 165 pounds. During that 7-hour, 8-hour period, I lose 10 pounds of water and weigh in. So that's why nutrition, especially when we're talking about rest and recovery, is crucial in boxing. So
that's actually really cool. I've actually never known about that. I've done my research with how boxers and stuff, what type of diets they make them go on, how even Sylvester Stallone, the stuff he had to do for Rocky.
Yeah.
Even in the movie when he cracked the egg and drank the raw egg, I thought that was insane, and I just didn't even know how.
So that's an example of just getting that protein. You just want that high protein, quick absorption. If you eat a raw egg, you do that. It's one of those things that's got a lot of nutrients in it, and if you don't cook it, you're not cooking a bunch of the good nutrients up. Immediate, yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, what kind of do you give your fighters gloves, or do they have to buy them?
As for the training?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. It's a good question, actually. When it comes to gloves, it's one of those things. Gloves are like, a lot of people borrow gloves for class, and I always tell people, borrowing gloves is like borrowing someone else's socks and putting them on your hands.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. Now imagine borrowing somebody else's socks that everybody else's feet are in, and then putting your hands in them.
Yeah.
So with gloves, we recommend for training, for fighters, I recommend a 16-ounce or an 18-ounce glove. So an 18-ounce glove is the absorption rate. So that number will tell you kind of how soft the glove is. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So 16-ounce weighs a pound, but it has absorption of a 16-ounce glove. Yeah.
They fight with headgear on?
With headgear. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
He's doing his mentorship for Mooresville on boxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he wanted a boxing athlete.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
I need
Sit.
light on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that was my bad. What were you up to with the new car?
I was just cleaning it up.
Doing it.
Yeah, it's just dirty.
All right. Cool. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, good, good.
All right. So, my next question is for like wrapping hands. Like, do you teach your fighters how to like wrap their hands?
Yes, that's one of the most important things when you're wrapping your hands. When you're wrapping your hands for fighting, it's a very specific wrap. When you're wrapping your hands for training, it's a very specific wrap. Everybody has their own theory. My theory is, I always say this, battle tested, mother approved. All right. There's a certain way you want to wrap that hand, and you want to wrap it long ways. You don't want to create any unnecessary break points at your wrist. So there's a lot of important things. A lot of people don't even put. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As a self-defender, I know what I could do to somebody. I know about I could hurt somebody else, but more importantly, I got no reason to fight. People always come in. They come in, and I talk to them, and they come in the gym like, "Hey, what's it gonna take to put the gloves on? I'd love to go with you." I'm like, $10,000. Like, what? I was like, $10,000 is my starting price for me. I'm a professional fighter.
Yeah.
It's like you going, "Hey, I want to play a pickup game with Michael Jordan."
Yeah.
Michael Jordan's not gonna go, "Oh, well, since you want to do it, I'll do it." I'm like, no, sign the dotted line, and we'll play a game. Because so that's the idea is when we're learning this stuff and teaching this stuff, part of it is seeing somebody like Jake Paul just have success. It's good for the sport. It brings attention back to the sport. Look at me. I'm fighting a professional boxing fight because maybe inspired by Jake Paul. If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
All right? So.
Did you like when his brother, Logan Paul, went against Floyd Mayweather? Did you like that?
It was amazing. You're looking at, like you said, a YouTuber who outweighed him against a guy who's never in any danger. Floyd Mayweather is not in any danger against. I mean, he's fought the best of the best, the best of the best knockout artists trying to knock him out, and they couldn't do it. A tall YouTuber, but the thing about that, everybody calls him a YouTuber. He's a phenomenal wrestler. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
Jake Paul is an Ohio State caliber wrestler. Yeah. So that athletic ability alone will get you through a fight. He's been in a lot of fights. People are like, oh, he's never been in a fight. A fight, a jiu-jitsu fight, a wrestling match is a fight, just like any other.
I knew about Logan because I used to watch his old vines, and he used to wrestle in those old vines.
That's it.
He used to.
He's a wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. I also have one more. What do you think of Ryan Garcia? He's one of the upcoming newer fighters.
Yeah.
And he's knocked out, I think it's 15 people so far. But people say that he really hasn't gone against real competition. But he wants to fight Jake Paul, but Jake Paul doesn't want to fight him because he's a very scary guy.
Yeah.
So it's what do you think about him?
He's a lot smaller, and he's done the boxing path. I mean, look, I'm going to be straight up. My record is I have a couple losses on my record, and I don't mind those losses. I know that I challenged myself, and I know that some of the guys that I beat should have beat me. I know that I was usually the underdog. So when you look at a boxer who's 15-0, a professional, granted, he's phenomenal. He's undefeated, but has he ever fought somebody who's challenged him? And if you're a great fighter, how you come back from adversity is a lot more important than being undefeated. If you're an undefeated fighter, no offense to Floyd fought the best in the world, but he avoided some of the hard hitters.
Yeah.
So you're the best in the world, but 1 or 2 losses on your record, how you came back, how you fought after that shows how great. Like Manny Pacquiao lost, how did he come back? He's been fighting for 4 decades. That shows that you are great at what you do, and you're one of the legends.
Genuinely love.
You love it, but you're great at it. When you can do it for 4 decades, four decades of your own life, So that's kind of where you're looking at a guy like Floyd, a guy like the greats. They've just been doing it a long time.
All right, well, that was mostly all my questions. That was actually really interesting for me. It's a new perspective, the way to look at things. This basically, you can just go ahead and shout out whatever you need.
Oh, cool. Thank you if whoever's watching this. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. I love doing this every year. Different students. I know we got a different system this year, but maybe we'll get some background video, and hopefully maybe we'll get you to the fight. Get you some B-roll, we call it. Yeah. Watch me knock somebody out. It'll make this video that much better.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much.